At our top story this afternoon, we will need to shut down institutions if they do not listen to us. Now, this is the message from the South African Union of Students as day one of Tertiary Fees Education Commission continues in Pretoria today. The Student Union representative, Avela Mjajubana, began proceedings with a call for free education for the poor and students who qualify as the missing middle. Mjajubana argues that the salaries of vice-chancellors, ministers, mayors and municipal managers must be cut to pay for education. He also urged the government to halt wasteful expenditure as this can contribute to funding a free higher education. The commission was established by President Jacob Zuma in January to look into the feasibility of free higher education. Let's cross live to the commission now to see exactly what's happening there.
For example, the state could function as the guarantor. Now, that's the basic system that they have in the United States, for example, where the state is the guarantor of all student loans. So we got similar kinds of proposals for South Africa. The last set of proposals, and this is where it becomes for us more complicated because it is about going beyond the current system and what South Africans are used to. The last set of proposals were basically based on the assumption that even if you reform the current system, there would still be thousands of students who would be unable to access higher education. And so we received about 2 or 3 proposals that suggested the use of what are called special purpose entities or SPEs, or privately managed, nationally based asset management funds. And what would this? Because in our estimation from the figures that we've seen is that no matter how much money you could put into the current system, that amount of money would still not be enough to really give every single student a free education. Because I think the estimate is something like 9 billion rands per year, right? For
I think that means every single student who qualifies.
Can I respond?
Yeah, well, Adam Habib would like to respond.
Chair, the reason we say this, is that even in societies like Germany, not all students coming out of the schooling system automatically go to universities. That effectively what is done is people are pooled and then there are different avenues of access to post-secondary. Some of it could be vocational, some of it could be technical education, some of it would be going into the working pool, others would be going into the university system, etc. So if you're looking at, we take about 1.1 million people into grade R and grade 1. On average, 50% do not complete their grade 12. So effectively about 600,000, 700,000 tend to write the matriculation, what is the equivalent of the matriculation exam. And at the moment, 28% to 30% actually pass with a bachelorette pass, which means they get above 50 that allows them to come into a university. Now effectively, so that's down to 200,000 from effectively 1.1 million people. And one of the big tragedies of South African higher education is not many come out of the system. There's 55% who don't complete. So what you want to effectively ensure is that even if you get good performance at primary and secondary level, you're never going to take all 1.1 million people into the university system. You need to create other kinds of options. And even places like Germany, which have very good university systems, make sure that only one part of the student pool goes into universities and then other parts go into other parts of the post-secondary system. I think from a country point of view, it's important that we have a diversity of skills created from our student pool. Otherwise, you'll have too many people with kind of theoretical skills and not enough with the kind of applied practical skills required to drive the economy and the society itself.
So your ideal is not that every student will go to university?
That's right. Our ideal is not that every student should go to the university. However, we do find that every student should have a future and an inclusive future. And an inclusive future should not simply be defined by access to university education.
So another way of answering that again is to just give you a sense of statistics that even in the countries that spend the highest amount on higher education, the number of people who actually graduate from universities with a bachelor's degree is less than 40%. The only country in the world that has 51% graduation rate is Canada. And that's the only country that we could find that has over 50% of its student body actually graduating with a bachelor's degree. So the large percentage of students that actually go to university, even in countries where the university sector is well funded, actually don't graduate with a bachelor's degree.
May I just ask you whether you can answer this question? Of the students who graduate with a bachelor's degree in South Africa, what percentage find employment?
Did we?
We don't have the immediate data around this, but there is a lot of information that I think is really dubious in the public discourse around this. What we are very, very clear, Chair, is that the higher your level of qualification, the greater your chances of getting a job in the society itself. Now, I do know that there's a large amount of suggestions that we have something called a graduate unemployment problem. All of the research shows that that problem isn't as dramatic as people imagine it to be. Actually, given the skill deficits that we have in our society, as soon as you're starting to get a graduate degree, you get a job. It might not be the job you want. It might not be the job you perceive you deserve. But the likelihood of you getting a job increases dramatically as you progress in the hierarchy. And that applies to matric, grade 10, matric, first degree, second degree, third degree, and fourth degree. And that's quite clear. And if you want some data, I'm sure that the CHE, the Council for Higher Education, has more data that would give you further detail in this regard.
Supposing you increase the volume of your graduates by 10% because of your new funding system, what percentage of those graduates are going to find employment in the present South African economy?
It seems to me that there are two parts to that. Firstly, is what are they graduating in? So what we do have is a situation where many students, and in many professions, we have a shortage of skills. So the first question is, what are they graduating in? And if we can figure out and ensure that they're graduating in the very areas where there are significant shortages in the South African economy, then we could be creating a win-win scenario where people are kind of working towards enabling economic growth in the society. The second issue is that effectively, and this is worth bearing in mind, that when we're looking at it, the issue of jobs has to be an issue that simply cannot be resolved at the university level. We actually have to have an expanding economy to be able to absorb. We can produce the best graduates in the world. So long as the economy is not expanding, there's not going to be an absorbing capacity. And that's something that is really the issue of economic policy, the issue of technical policy, the issues of skill sets, and issues that involve other stakeholders other than the university itself.
Well, that's one of the questions that I'm concerned with. Supposing one formulates a policy here, or a suggestion to the government, which is going to vastly broaden the accessibility to universities, how many disappointed graduates are we going to get? Because I understand that is the experience of other countries, such as Venezuela, for example.
So yes, that is an example like Venezuela, but I can give you other examples in other parts of the world where actually the problem isn't as bad. So in South Korea, there is an absorption of those capacities. That's right, but so is Venezuela and the South African economy. So I do think what we've got to start doing is getting all parts of our society working together. So we need economic policy, university admissions policy, our education and skill sets policy, all talking to each other, and that's it. If you're asking, Chair, if we get and expand higher education and our economy continues to perform as it is now, well, then we're in serious trouble. And I think you're absolutely right. we do need an economy that is capable of absorbing the graduates and incapable of creating a more inclusive future for all of our citizens.
We are very much concerned about us being, as it were, do-gooders, acceding to the students' initial request to free education.